Maggie, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's fun. We get to talk about our audition for Juilliard.
No, wild. Feels like so
Wild.
long ago and also yesterday.
Yeah, so for everyone listening, please share like what your timeline is. When did you graduate from Juilliard? What degree did you graduate with? And had you gotten a degree prior?
I graduated about 2 years ago, and I went in for my MFA. And before that, I attended the University of Iowa, studied theater, had a double majored in theater and literature, and had done theater a little bit in middle school, throughout high school. And then I had a big gap between undergrad and deciding to go back to school.
Yeah.
I was living in Chicago, working as an actor for 9 years, building a life as an actor. Of course, working as an actor was the end part of the 9 years. Figuring out how to work as an actor was the first part. So yeah, so that's sort of what is my timeline thus
Right.
far.
Yeah. And for those watching this video in 2143, 2 years ago is 2023 is when you graduated, right?
2023.
Yeah.
So I 6 months into starting my 4 year program, COVID happened. And
Mm,
then I graduated into the 2023 actor strike. So, just overachieving over here with the like strange kind of unprecedented obstacles for the world slash our industry.
right.
Yeah, it was quite the experience.
Oh my gosh. Well, um, we are, as you know, talking with people like the audience that we're here listening and watching this video are people who want to get into drama school, people who are really serious, obviously like you and I, about long doing this acting thing long term and training at the highest level. Did you feel like you needed to go to a master's program in order to get that depth of training you were looking for, or what kind of attracted you after 9 years of being in the industry to apply for drama schools?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll be really specific to my world and my life. And of course, as we know with storytelling, the more specific we are, the more universal it sort of becomes. So I, it wasn't until quite a few years after school that I was untangling a lot of really personal things, the way that the worlds I grew up in. And there was this revelation for me in my late 20s that the person I had become, because I took a pretty big paradigm shift in a lot of huge ways, that the person I had become, uh, I now had more access to my humanity. I was a more awake person, and that person had never had acting training, the person I had become.
Mm.
And so I did workshops. I did a summer program at Atlantic here in New York. But just more and more, I could feel that there were some deep things to untangle and figure out and rewire. So I decided to apply to grad schools. I think that the sort of quick elevator pitch whenever, why'd you go to grad school? Especially because when I went, I was 31, which is hilarious because in my early 20s, before any of this really happened, before I sort of like really came into my own in a lot of ways and healed from a lot of things. I occasionally, just because I felt like I wasn't doing enough, I would think, oh, maybe I should go back to school. And I was like, oh, I couldn't possibly. I'm 24. Like I would graduate when I'm 28. Like I would be so old, which is so funny because then I like ended up actually going back to school much later than that even. So yeah, I decided to go back, and it felt like the quick elevator pitch was like I need and want more access to myself as an artist, and I need and want more access to the industry. And I feel like each of those things I haven't figured out how to give myself. And so to me, applying for schools is a very humbling experience. It's saying, hey, there's something that I need that I don't know how to give myself. So hello, institution, like, will you take me? Could you help me get that thing? Um, so yeah, that was sort of the baseline of it. And it was a lot of doing shows and people being like, that was great. And me thinking like, was it? Like and not in a, "Ugh, no, wait, no, but tell me more." But like truly, I was like, I feel like there's something else I can more, and more, less, whatever it is. There's a magic space I'm not in yet. Or
And you're
something
talking about prior to.
preschool, prior to school. And I was like, sometimes I can get there if I have the right director, or if I have the right script, but I want to be able to get into that magical mystical space more consistently.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't have the skills to do that yet.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was sort of some of the things that after a long time in the industry, I was making a living off of it. I was doing TV, I was doing commercials, I was doing theater, and was really there were definitely things I hadn't achieved in Chicago that I wanted to, and there were also a lot of incredible things that I had definitely checked off the list that I was so proud of. And it was just a very personal choice of this is something I want to do forever. And I know that I will be doing in some capacity forever. And I would rather take 4 years off now to rewire, go back into this kind of embryonic hibernation phase and
Yeah.
back out and know that when I'm 80 years old doing this, I'm really grounded in a sense of how I do it, or the things that are mystical, the things that are like, I've never been able to understand that, but sometimes I can write something or do an imagination exercise and suddenly I'm there or whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's sort of my
Yeah.
long
That's beautiful. That's
meandering answer.
beautiful. And I think it's important to share what you shared because it reflects the artistic focus of the institution, whereas a lot of people go to master's programs with this idea that it's going to help catapult my career or whatever. And obviously, it has the ability to do that, but the work you do daily is much more of that embryonic self-exploration and expansion work. I didn't really realize till I graduated Juilliard as a bachelor student, so I was 21 years old, thrown
Yeah.
out to the wolves, like just completely immature, But when I was in my late 20s as well, I also had kind of a snake skin shed moment spiritually, and like I really felt like I came into my own. Why did I bring that up? Because that's when I realized, wow, a lot of the training I did at Juilliard was just wellness training. It's a
Yeah.
lot of wellness training. It's a lot of nurturing your imagination and directing your thoughts
Mm-hmm.
to the
Mm-hmm.
story you want to tell or to the, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, I have so
Mm-hmm.
many skills in that regard where I have the ability to inhibit, I
Mm-hmm.
have the ability to follow my impulses. I have the ability to go big and bold. I have the ability to go pianissimo. Like these are things that are required in
Yeah.
just wellness. So
Yeah.
I love that
I
you,
completely agree, Anthony. One of the things I've always loved about acting in general is that the more I learn about something that I'm deeply besides acting and performing, something that I'm deeply invested in and curious about is like how to just like let myself be a human. Like, what does that mean?
right.
On the basis level, one of my favorite poems is a poem by Mary Oliver, Wild Geese, and she says, "To let the soft animal of my body love what it loves." And
Mm,
that's sort of when I first came across that poem, I was like, oh, wow, that so beautifully articulates this thing that I'm already invested in and curious about. And something I love about acting is the more I learn about acting, I feel like I'm more to learn about how to be good at just letting myself be human. And the more I learn about how to go, so like the wellness thing feeds the artistry and the artistry feeds the wellness thing. And I haven't necessarily used the term wellness to describe that before, but yes, 100%.
yeah.
And that was absolutely a part of my experience at school. And I think that coupling the more access to myself as an artist and also seeking more access to the industry, I knew that the second part I had no control over.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was at first it was kind of, okay, let's see if this thing is going to help me get more access to myself as an artist. And then it might be a full 10 years before I see the full effects of, I mean, because it wasn't until my third year even in school that I was like, okay, All right, I'm seeing it just artistically and personally. Like I knew it was coming, but then I started to see the way that I was interacting with, on a stage so differently and
That's awesome.
inside of a show. So anyway, yes,
I
definitely.
love that. I want to talk all about that.
Yeah.
But I hate that we have a short amount of time. We can maybe do a whole nother video about like the training itself or the aftermath of it. But we want to focus in on the audition. So like
Absolutely.
when we talk about, one thing we hear all the time is to get into these schools, you really just got to share who you are, right?
Hmm.
And you're going to school to explore more about how to train the new you. So how did you share that in the audition? How did you use the monologue search to like
Yeah.
find pieces that really resonated with you? Tell us about how you found your pieces and related to that idea of I'm going to bring me.
Yeah. It's a really good one. I think I'll start with sort of my approach in general to the whole thing
Yeah.
was I'm clear about what I feel like I need, even if I don't know exactly what it is I need, but like I need something in this category of access. So let me even just use this process of choosing monologues, writing my personal statement to help me in that. So even if I don't get in, again, something I don't have control over, I do have control over what pieces I work on. I do have control over what I write for my personal statement. Let that also be part of this discovery process. I mean, what an incredible thing to ask yourself. Why do I want to be an actor? Why do I want to invest money and time uh, to be a better actor? I mean, those are like beautiful questions to like really ask yourself. Like, why does that matter to me? And then spending time looking for pieces as actors, we don't decide what we're cast in. And so to actually have the choice of, I want to work on this piece, I want to work on this piece, I really, really used that. And so both were very vulnerable, very specific to me. I was very, really, really dug in with my personal statement, sharing aspects. It's hard to write about your own life. It's very hard. So get help. Get
Yeah.
help. Outside help. Get someone to reflect, say, this is what I think it is, and have someone reflect back to you. Because when you're working with this much stuff and they're asking for that much, I mean, your life is like so many years, so many moments, so many like thoughts and philosophy. And so like I'd really recommend that. And then when it comes to choosing pieces, um, focus on what makes your soul sing. What is interesting and exciting to you? Because there's also the things that are like interesting and sexy to people right now. And for me at the time, the right now felt like probably especially because I was in Chicago, it was like, oh, I want to find this sort of blue collar worker, something contemporary for my contemporary piece. And I did. I found that and that plus this other Shakespeare piece were my two front runners. And then I had my two.
Mind sharing what they were?
I'm actually forgetting
But
what
you
they
remember how it felt. I get it.
Yeah, I'm forgetting the name of it right now that but then uh I had two backup pieces and the backup contemporary piece was um I had stumbled on it, seen a show in Chicago, just loved this character so much. It was a William Inge. It wasn't anything sexy and new. I just loved this character so much, and I'd always had such a heart for these kind of these women in the 1940s kind of trapped in these ideas of femininity that end up essentially driving them crazy. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
and because the world was not made for you. So how do you function inside of that? And and so I was like, oh, here's a chance to maybe work on this piece. And I cut it together and it was like weird. And truly I'd worked on all four of my pieces, the two main ones, the two backups for, months or whatever with a director friend of mine. And it was a few weeks before, maybe even a week before the actual audition, I was like, I gotta do this William Inge piece as my main one. I gotta switch those because I know that like in my life, I'm a queer woman. I like encompass a lot of sort of masc femme qualities. Like it felt like I wanted to show that part of myself, whatever it was. I just like, I love embodying these very specific character women
Yeah.
characters. And I was like, I gotta do it. I love her so much. And all I want to do is go into that room and like take care of her really well. And to this day, Richard Feldman, who was the person in my audition room, talks about it. Talk because that was the first piece I did before my Shakespeare piece. And then he ended up asking for all my other pieces and my song. So I did all four of my pieces and a song. But the first piece I did was this William Inge piece from A Loss of Roses. And he was like, it's one of the best auditions I've ever seen. And I don't say that because yay me, but because in the sense of yay my acting, but because I trusted myself to
Right. I'm hearing that.
like know that this is I love this character so much and she's so like weird and fragile and like but I don't think she's fragile and like you know what I mean? And so like
Yeah. What I'm hearing a lot is like point of view. You have a strong point of view for whatever reason you're drawn to this um character persona, if you will, this era, this feel. Then you found an actual monologue and a character that is expressing from that place, and you just have a strong point of view about it.
yeah.
Like it's not like Maggie's point of view is correct or Maggie's point of view is wrong. Like there is a strong choice there. One of the That's really awesome that Richard said that. I would love to
Yeah.
ask him about that. But
Yeah.
I also got a similar comment from not that it was the best audition or anything, but Michael Kahn, who ran Juilliard when I got there. Uh,
Yeah.
it was his last year. My first year was his last year. Anyway, he saw this Richard the Second piece of mine, and I made this kind of bold choice in the piece that I really felt strongly about why he was doing something, and it manifested in like this big choice I made. And he goes, "I've never seen it done that way before." You know? And I was like, I took that as a compliment, obviously
Okay.
having
Yeah.
gotten accepted to the school, I was like, dang, he's directed this show probably, I don't know how many
Yeah.
times. And, it's just when you have a point of view, when you feel like I want to take care of this character, I want to give justice to, what I think is their truth, that's probably a good monologue to lead with.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll say two things in regard to that too. Um, in the idea of point of view, there's an amazing Robert Frost quote where he talks about poetry and when he reads poetry, um, he can always tell the poems that he loves. He can tell when it's written from belief rather than cunning or cleverness. And I'll say that too when it comes to boldness. Don't be bold because you're trying to show that you're clever or that you have this interesting idea. Do it because you like the point of view has to come from here, not from
Mhm.
here. And
Oh,
I think that too, like if I had been working from here, I probably would have done the monologue I originally did because I'm like, they want to see something modern. They want to see that that I, as a, essentially blue collar woman, can play this blue collar woman. And it's like, no, oh, I love this other thing and I want to do that. And I don't really have a good explanation for it at the time, or probably still, but I believe in it, and I think
right.
I
Listening
would
to that
say,
is way more powerful. You're so right.
yeah,
And a lot of us are too smart for our own good, or we're in our head. We think we're clever. We think if we do this piece, it's going to show that we are this, and then if we contrast it with this, man, they're going to see this package. And it's just like you're just
yeah,
too smart for your own good. Like just be drawn to what you're drawn to.
absolutely
And the
agreed.
contrast will likely come out naturally because you're willing to be so specific with two different things. We're going
Yeah.
to see some dynamic things. All right, so moving on. Working on your pieces. You said you worked for months. You used some help with a director friend of yours. How do you remember that journey? Like, was it a roller coaster? Obviously, you had a process and some confidence and some training at that point. So you knew how to rehearse and all that stuff. But like, how was your preparation?
Preparation, I think a really big thing is asking for help or finding help. You know what I mean? But when I was writing, I would reach out to my sister and kind of try to talk through ideas or send to a friend of mine who's a writer and be like, do you mind looking over this and tell me if it's like completely like doesn't make sense? Like, is it following? Trying to pack like a giant life story into 2 pages. Um, yeah, and I knew for me that I work really hard, but I need structure. And so part of reaching out to my director friend was like, I need some structure. So I need to know that, okay, if we're meeting on this day, I got to be ready to do something. uh, yeah, so that was a big part of it for me was creating some kind of structure for myself and I mean we're theater artists for a reason. We create in collaboration with others.
Mhm.
And so I think we need that. Um, yeah, it's really, really useful.
Did you feel that by working on these pieces and kind of peeling back the layers of it, did you find that your initial draw to them ended up being kind of what happened in the room? Or did you find that you made a ton of discoveries or almost feel like the end result at the audition was very different than maybe how you initially thought it would go performance-wise? Kind of a specific question.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I'm not sure that I know. I mean,
You probably had instincts about the monologue in your mind's eye
yeah,
when you first, discovered it. That's why you were drawn to it. But then, like, obviously, in the working of it, artistic processes can take you
yeah,
anywhere.
yeah,
I'm just wondering
absolutely.
how
And
different.
it can feel, I think work on a monologue especially can feel a bit daunting because, as we know, I mean, you can do so much with a chunk of words. And so there was often that negotiation kind of with myself or with my friend that I was working with kind of reflecting back to me, or I would do the monologues for friends all the time because that's another thing. Throw them out, get them out there, get those nerves out, get your nervous system as activated as possible while you're doing it so your body can get used to that activation while you're
Oh,
trying to do this monologue. So I'd try to put myself in like embarrassing, be like, okay, friends, like this is really embarrassing and feels really awkward, but I'd rather feel awkward in front of you and get that out and get my body used to that while I'm saying these words. But yeah, but there were those moments where it's like, do we lean into the comedy of this moment? In this monologue, but normally in a show it's like depends on who you're talking to or what the moment in the show is, where it falls in the play. So there's so much to kind of play around with there that then trying to leave some spaces for freedom and possibility and then also with two of my monologues, especially at my end of day callback with Evan, and then at my callback weekend, two different monologues, she kind of asked for different things and kind of workshopped it. So you also really got to be able to be loose.
yeah. No, you said it.
Getting
I
play.
mean, it's so important. It's the task of the auditioning student is to explore it as fully as possible while still leaving room for possibility and play and do not attach yourself to any choices. But you still have to somehow make strong choices too,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
always be in that sense of play. I mean, schools, I think, say that pretty well on their website. They're like, we're looking for students who have a willingness to play, ability to take direction. Like you're going to a training environment where you're going to have to try new things, so you might as well show that off. Um, I want to get into some specifics, like what was it like in the audition room? Like,
yeah.
how was Richard's reaction in your first time? Did he show that it was amazing, or was it more
No, I had no idea.
And then, like, what adjustments did Evan give you? Like, let us be a fly on the wall briefly in some of these highlights.
Um, I'll say first of all, just on a personal level, I tried to go in and like honor the fact that I was nervous and that I cared and that I hoped that I would get in and that also like it would be okay if I didn't. And that there are so many
Was
paths
this
to
more like self-talk to yourself, or you're like,
self-talk.
yo, Richard?
Self-talk. Yeah, I was like, Richard, look, I don't even need you guys. No, no. But I was like, so just in that sense too, like how, because speaking of point of view, like a space changes depending on what energy you're bringing into it. So I brought into it like, okay, I know I'm going to be in a weird room that I've never seen before with probably fluorescent lights. Like it's not going to be sexy. It's going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to do that thing where I'm like, do I use the chair? Just like all of these funny, goofy things that just can feel so like the thing that we want it to feel when we're acting. So yeah, going into that room, it was Richard and I think one other person sitting with him. I believe it was Joe May, who was the teaching fellow at the time. And
So
they
was
were
just
so, yeah. Oh, how funny. There you go.
yeah.
And they were so kind and so warm. Kathy is the administrative head of the department. I was just blown away by how warm and kind everyone was.
Mhm.
And that was consistent
New
through
York or Chicago?
Chicago.
Yeah.
And that was consistent through the whole experience from first audition through graduating. Like, I was like, wait, I thought it was like Juilliard, like, and it's like so not that. And so that put me at ease. And then, yeah, Richard is just such a kind, soft, tender person, and was, they're also moving fast. So they want to be kind to you. And also they need to just kind of hear your name, get a hello, and then you jump in and you do the thing. And so they were said, oh, we see that your two main pieces are this. What do you want to start with, I think? And I decided to start with my Loss of Roses piece. I like, kind of found my space, grounded myself, and I just did it.
Mhm.
And then I stopped and I did my next one. And then I waited to hear for a moment to hear if they wanted to see something else. And he asked for my other Shakespeare piece and then asked for my other contemporary piece and then asked me to sing, which I am not a singer, but I chose a song that I love and that my grandmother loved. And so I sang that. And then I went out and I waited.
Right.
Um, so yeah. And and again, the space was always very warm and welcoming and kind. And also it goes by quickly. So finding, if you are someone that meditates or has other mindfulness practices, finding ways to ground yourself, be present with every breath, because I mean, again, when your nervous system gets that activated, like time flies. Um, yeah,
So that was the initial audition. Obviously, you saw your name on the callback list.
yeah, which was wild. I was like, it was me and one other person, I think.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
And they don't do as long of a callback on the end of day
Hmm.
nowadays because they have callback weekend. So if they really want to go deep with you, they're just going to invite you to callback weekend. We didn't have callback weekend. We had just like until 1 in the morning on that day. If you were called back at 5 p.m., it was like we're doing crazy amounts of basically callback weekend within like 8 hours.
I
You
did
know,
not know that. That's
it was
wild.
cool. It was cool. And it was kind of refreshing to just leave the city and just know
Yeah.
like they got what they got. Like pick me or
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah, totally.
No pressure to worry about whether callback weekend or whatever. But anyway, so callback weekend, I'd love to hear like highlights, things that you remember. How did it go for you?
Yeah. Let's see. Um, I mean, for those of you who maybe have unconventional backgrounds or are coming in older, that was something I was very aware of, was I am older than like everyone here. And so, letting that ground me because I've had more years on the earth and have had lots of different experiences and experienced lots of versions of the world and myself and been through a lot. And also let that humble me and just be present and be equally excited and interested and playful, which is, I mean, I'm just a weirdo goof anyway. And yeah, just and it was so fun and also so like strange and fascinating. And I remember kind of actually going back to the working from belief rather than cleverness thing in a way when I did go in and do my monologue for the whole uh,
Panel.
big group of faculty, which was wild in this giant room, which then I got so used to being in 304. Um, and then I did a Cressida monologue from Troilus and Cressida, and I think my one note, I did it, and then my one note from Evan was wanting to ground me in the circumstances of this young woman a bit more, saying this is not a woman that has choices, really, in the same way that you would, if I remember correctly. And so she was wanting to kind of ground into that. And I think kind of per what we were talking about before, I had probably tried to build in more because I thought that would be more interesting and smart, more kind of modernness to this
Mhm.
character, who's like, oh my God, and like embarrassed and like and totally those are things that are happening. And also some of that embarrassment is coming from like really intense cultural standards around what I am and am not allowed to say, and what are going to be the ramifications if I do say this thing. And so it reminded me that sometimes circumstance ultimately is helping you raise the stakes, is helping to take care of this character better and understand what her situation is and why she's saying the same things that she's saying. And by sort of divorcing myself so much from those contexts, it becomes kind of a different thing. So
Mhm.
that was something that I was grateful for and learned a lot from just that one little tweak
Right.
that she
Right.
gave me.
Did you
Um,
feel like what a lot of people feel in these callbacks, these deeper callbacks, where it's just like, man, it just feels like a workshop? Or was it?
Absolutely. It felt like a workshop. It felt like going to school. Um, of course, there's that bit of like everybody's observing you do the workshop, and they're like, so then there's a little bit of
Like
yourself.
assessing how you are in the
Yeah,
work,
like
not just
exactly. So there's a little bit of you that's like watching yourself inside of the workshop, like, okay, am I workshopping correctly?
then
Like,
you have to like also tell yourself like the only way that I actually will give them what they want is if I do invest fully in the exercise or the so it's like how do I just like try to silence that? I remember that too. They probably did imaginative exercises where you're like, you know, being taught to think about what's in the room and you're coming up with all sorts of things. I remember being in like an imaginary train station, combing my hair with an apple and doing things that like based on the instructions or whatever, my imagination would just go.
yeah,
And I remember thinking like, there's no way they know that I'm combing my hair with an apple. I'm just doing
yeah,
something with a round thing on top of my head. But it's
yeah,
about them knowing, like,
yeah,
it's just, can you let your imagination pour out, you
yeah,
know? And remember just being like, I'm about to comb the shit out of my hair right
yeah, yeah.
with this
Love
app.
that. I love that.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll say too, like being noticed during a workshop like that is not because you're the loudest, most participating person. Uh Participate,
yeah,
obviously. Be spontaneous, be impulsive, be brave based off of you and your life and where you are. And there were times where I could hear myself, oh, you should do, more in this thing and the more I would kind of be like, hey, it's okay. If I'm not the one who jumps in and plays the game 10 times, and instead I jump in and I do it 3 times, but I do it from a truthful place of me, and my impulse and how much of the lines I know because they sent us like a scene the night before or something for callback weekend and it's like quickly trying to learn this thing. I'd rather do that than
that's so wise.
yeah, take up a bunch of space in a way that's ultimately unuseful to anybody, including
Yeah, and by the way, like these are sophisticated artistic practitioners, these faculty members, like they can sniff when someone is coming from that place or if they're coming from an attention-seeking
yeah,
place.
yeah,
Um, I mean, probably the actors can too.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, and that's not what the schools want, you know, they want someone who, like you said, is coming from that truthful place, whose imagination is firing, you know. Um, I was going to ask, this is what faculty members tell us. I'm not speaking for every faculty member, but like across the top drama schools, faculty members are more sensitive to like the good souls in
Mhm.
the room than maybe is led on. Like it's not like on the website, we're looking for good people.
Yeah, yeah.
Really, they have to wake up every single day and come to be in the studio with us.
Mhm.
You know, so like while talent is like a important high artistic potential. Obviously, they're not going to even consider someone who doesn't have high artistic potential. But out of all those people, they have to whittle it down. And I think what they like to avoid most is toxicity. Um,
Absolutely.
do you have you found that in your class? Did you find that there was just a lot of good souls in school with you? I know it was a tough time, COVID and all that stuff. Or do you want to call out names of toxic people in your class?
And here we are to have an intervention, a revelation. Um, no, I definitely think that's true. I definitely and of course, like there's only so much someone can know about a soul when you are in a room with them for a few minutes and they do some monologues and then you kind of observe them over a couple of days in a workshop. But that is 100% what I've experienced in the sense of what they're aiming for and often what they end up with. And I mean, a few of my dearest forever chosen family friends are from my class, and then many others that I just think are the most beautiful people, um, and have beautiful souls.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have to be with each other for 4 years, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. So there has to be a lot of space for grace, kindness, patience, understanding, empathy. So you're really building your stamina and capacity for that. And you have to start from a place of that to get to where you got to get to anyway.
This is
Definitely.
cool. This is very cool. I definitely think it would be fun to talk about our experience in the training at some point. I think people would find that
Yeah. But I'd
valuable.
say probably to speak more to what you're asking too. Yeah, but be kind, be gracious, be patient, be understanding during the first audition, during the other. I mean, just sort of tap into that beautiful sort of wholeness of you that is just there as a person, and understanding in that way.
Mhm.
Uh, because the more you're grasping to kind of prove something about who you think you are or who you want to be, the more
The
that,
less gets revealed,
yeah,
like
exactly, the less gets revealed. That a lot of it is sort of just, yeah, trusting in yourself in that way.
very cool, very fun. I'm looking at this little list of questions I had, which I haven't even referred to once because it's just going back and forth. I guess to wrap up, I'd love to hear about the moment you were accepted.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I was waitlisted. So I didn't get in at first, but I had gotten into NYU and wasn't really sure which one I wanted to go to, but ultimately was feeling drawn to Juilliard. Richard was really pulling for me. And and like the day after I accepted NYU, I got a call from Kathy saying someone else went somewhere else and we'd love to pull you off the wait list and have you be part of group 52. And I honestly not even sure I fully remember that because it, it's so funny you ask. I,
Like, do you
I
remember where you were?
I distinctly remember calling Evan to accept because because then I was like, oh fuck, well now I have to like call NYU and say I need a little time because now I need to decide because I did get into like this is wild. Who am I to be getting so weirdly I actually don't even remember, but the Kathy call probably because it was just such a mind-blowing conversation. I actually anyway, but I distinctly remember standing on my brother's back porch in Chicago calling Evan to say, I would like to accept. And I could not believe how excited she was. She was like, we're so excited, Maggie, to have you. And I was like, you're excited. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm excited. Like, you're Evan Yanulis and you're excited about me. So that blew my mind. But again, that just like shows you they love what they do. They want to have the people that want to be there and want to be there because they love acting. They love humans. They have big hearts. They're excited to like explore. They're curious and humble. Um, yeah. So I
Yeah, that's
distinctly
awesome.
remember accepting.
Cool. That is very cool. Well, thank you for sharing. Uh, for everyone who knows Maggie, some of you have worked with her with us. She's our friend at How to Get Into Drama School. She sometimes helps us with coaching or leading group classes and stuff like this. She's an outstanding friend and person and artist and mentor. So I appreciate you just sharing like unfiltered your audition journey because that's
Yeah,
also like it matters, like
I
what's
know
your
it
story?
does.
What you get in?
It does. It does. Yeah, absolutely.
Would you say anything? I guess would you leave like a little note of wisdom when preparing for drama school auditions? Like what would you say to people nowadays who are going into the process? Besides all the beautiful stuff you've already said.
Um, for some reason, when something comes to mind, it's one of my favorite kind of recent anthems of the last few years, but that slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Mm,
So start early. Don't feel like you have to immediately find your monologue. Just know that you want to find it by whatever date and be working on it. And just look around. Spend 10 minutes every few days or, just don't think that it's not all going to happen immediately. Just like when you think about working on a character, you're getting to know someone. It takes a long time to get to know someone. So same thing for this process. Like you're getting to know a version of yourself in order to write this personal statement. You're getting to know what people you're going to want to spend the next people, characters you want to spend the next couple months with and introduce yourself as for this audition. So take your time and listen from here.
that is beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And we will talk soon.
Amazing. Sounds good.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Maggie. Have a good one. Bye.